Awesome. And we're on. So, yes, so my name is Katie Mason, and I'm so happy to be here to present to you Valerie Murky. And yeah, so we are here at the Chat and Learn with PowerToFly. Um, so just to go over some things on this Bevy platform, there are a couple of different areas of general chat. You've noticed that the Q&A, I will be dropping in some questions that I've prepared with Val, her insights on, and there's a DM area that you can message us if you want to ask something privately. And also, tag us and share what's going on here on social, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and continue to add your thoughts in the chat box. And just yeah, so I'm here to host this event for you, and I am the speaker curator. I help to elevate feminine voices. Yes, all the way to conversations that bring us closer. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and of course, there's more live chats to come. And I'll pass the mic to Valerie so that you can talk briefly about yourself for a minute or so. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Murky. I am a content creator and a blogger. My blog is called Oh Hello Work Life, and it's pretty interesting how it came about, why I launched the blog. My background is in fashion merchandising. I was in the corporate world for over 18 years in the fashion industry, and I am actually surviving my second layoff. This time it happened at the height of the pandemic back in April 2020. And the reason why I launched this blog, originally it was going to be a blog about like project management, only because I wanted to show my future employer that I can stay relevant with understanding digital marketing, content creation, and SEO. But I found out this data point that really touched me, and I am experiencing it now. Over 2 million women were forced out of the job workforce because either they were laid off, furloughed, or had to stay home with the kids. So instead of doing a project management blog, I decided to shift it over to a career development and personal development blog, which is Oh Hello Work Life. It's a blog that supports mid-career women surviving a sudden job loss, trying to start a side hustle, level up in their career, or start a small business. So that's a little bit more about me. And today we're going to talk about personal branding. For me, I didn't even know what that meant as a person who was super loyal to their job and company for over 18 years. I represented the company. I loved the brand that I represented. It was all about them. And I never took the time to nurture or share myself, who I am online. And when I was laid off, I realized that I needed to make sure that I took care of myself in terms of putting myself out there and started building a personal brand. But it didn't happen until after I was laid off. But it doesn't really matter when you start, but it's just important that you start today. And we'll go over how we can do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just a few themes for today. It's about, as Valerie mentioned, building personal brand and statement, and how to craft your own branding for these various types of scenarios. And if you're struggling to find who you are, then how can you define your brand? And let me just go ahead and start with, jump right into the first question. is how do I craft a personal brand?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm gonna say it all starts with your mindset and how comfortable you are going to have to get to put yourself out there online. A personal brand, if you're not familiar with it or only just heard the term but really don't know what's behind it, it really is just your reputation online. What does it look like? Being intentional with it. And for some people, I know that could be really difficult to share um, because they could be introverted. They may not think that what's so important about me, or maybe they only share in a private mode under their Facebook or Instagram. But building a personal brand on a professional level, it really allows you to share with the professional community who you are beyond maybe your job title or your company. So I hope that helps explain what a personal brand is,
Yeah.
at least starting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to kind of go into what advice do you have for someone who's struggling to define who they are
How do you
based on
craft
their
it
brand?
was the
Yeah.
question. Yeah. Um, for me, I know that it started with, I didn't put myself out there immediately. And when I say I put myself out there, for me, personal brand in a professional setting, it started with LinkedIn. And I have to be honest with you, LinkedIn is kind of a scary place to put yourself out there without having a title or a role. Because I think a lot of people believe that that's the only place of that's all you want to talk about or hear or what you stand for on that platform. But really building a personal brand on a professional level, you have to be in a platform that will later recognize you and for your personal brand, not just in your private in what you do on Instagram or in Facebook, but this building a personal brand is going to help you later in your career or professional endeavors. So crafting it for me, it started off pretty much, I started journaling and started taking inventory of what are my values? What do I like to do? What do people know me for? What do people, I worked in the office setting, my colleagues and my coworkers, what would they comment me on? All those things, the first thing that you should do when crafting your personal brand is really sit down and start to like take inventory of what makes you you and unique. Is it philanthropic? Do you volunteer? Do you are you a mom, or you or a dog mom, a cat mom? Like all those things on your personality, that's what is going to be a part of the layers of your personal brand. And you're going to have to ask yourself, what am I willing to share? And you have control over how much you want to share or not, but not sharing at all means you don't really exist on a professional, personal branding, putting yourself out there. So the first thing to do is to really sit down and kind of jot down what makes you you.
Awesome. Just start by writing and then maybe
Yeah.
following up with some of those ideas to test them out. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And I have to tell you, like, it sounds silly, but already mid-career, I didn't really know who I was. I know that I loved fashion and in the fashion industry, and I had this role and title, but sometimes I feel like we make our titles all about who we are, but there's so much more to that. So you're going to have to dig deep and then figure out and journal it and write it down. I personally took a strengths finder personality test to help me kind of come up with like a language or a term for myself. So I took a couple of those tests, and I think they're really helpful to do. Some of them are free, some of them cost less than $50 to do, but it kind of gives you understanding of what's your strengths and what your weaknesses are, something that maybe you can use as a mainframe as you're building and trying to figure out what your personal brand is.
We have a practical question from Joan, and it's, how did you go from losing the job to blogging? And,
Yeah.
did you have savings and unemployment coming in? And how did you get the blog to monetize? If you'd like to answer.
A good question. Um, Gosh, I am a Googler in terms of I love looking things up online. After I took the strengths personality test, one characteristic came up consistently was the love of learning. So for me, I went online and I looked up everything I could. I watched video courses on how to blog in 2020. What does that look like? And so I really took the time and invested some money and some time into learning how to blog. Um, and uh, it was really, what was interesting going through the process is what I learned about myself is all the things of my experience and skill set as a merchandise um, manager and a product developer in the fashion industry. I actually took a lot of my transferable skills and applied it to blogging. There is a design element to it. There is marketing behind it. You have to learn about SEO, and all those things really kind of reminded me how I would launch a collection. What are the buzzwords we had to use? What was going to be the new design feature that we were going to market? So I would say that whatever you've learned in your past professionally, you definitely can still use that as leverage if you're planning on trying something new. You definitely have it within you in applying what you already do well in when you're learning a new subject.
Great. Let's go to what are some ways one can brand themselves when they're in a career transition?
Mm, when they're in a career transition. So for me, it's, one thing about personal branding, I think people always think like it's showy, it has to be manufactured. And that's not it. It's just revealing your personality, right? So while I was pivoting from being in the fashion industry and going into being a content creator and blogger, there were still things that I can talk about what makes me me, how I organize my notes, right? um, what I'm currently learning, what I'm currently reading. Those are just sharing with an audience who you are. And it doesn't mean it had to come with a title or role, because I didn't have one specifically. I only recently started sharing more and more about content writing, that I'm a content creator and a blogger. But there are certain things that you can share within your daily life that doesn't have to necessarily go back to a particular role or title. So I would say and suggest, anything that sparks your curiosity, share it and post it. Or, hey, I thought of this new thing, or I read this article. All those action items of sharing with the audience shows a little bit more about who you are and what you represent in your personal brand.
So for someone who doesn't have a Twitter and or Instagram, what are some ways they can get started and not
Yeah.
feel intimidated?
Well, the first thing is you have to get started, right? In order to put yourself out there in a personal brand, is trying to find the right platform for you. I'm not a Twitter person. I'm not into it, but I love Clubhouse. Now, Clubhouse is a audio social app, right? Katie and I, that's where we met, because I love podcasts. I love listening to speakers, and that's just the way I love to learn. So Clubhouse was a platform for me. LinkedIn was a platform for me because I love the professional community and the articles and the subject matters that are coming through on my feed. The first thing you have to do is you have to find what platform you feel the most comfortable in, because that is going to be one hurdle to get over in putting yourself out there. But you have to pick one. So it's all about testing.
Yeah, it's like just taking baby steps, and then of
Yeah.
course it's always a draft, and you will work on it some, and then the next day you'll come back with your mind refreshed, and then maybe make some changes
Yeah.
to it, and it's constant work in
Yeah.
progress, right?
Yeah. And you know that you bring up such a good point. I think that it does take courage and to post something online, whatever platform that you are deciding to put yourself out there for, right? So I would start off with getting on your phone and just pretending that you're going to post something. You don't have to post it yet, but being consistent and practicing, getting used to like what you're going to say, what your voice is, you can start there. You don't have to share it right out of the gate, right? Take your time in trying to, write it out. And it's okay to have first, second, third drafts, but as long as you're being proactive in doing it. Now, the thing is that one day you're going to have to post it, and and don't be discouraged if you don't get the likes. Don't get into the vanity metrics. Don't get the views. That shouldn't discourage you, because it does take time, right? Like all the algorithms, the platforms, they all have their own set of dwell time and getting to know you because you haven't been on the platform. Don't let that discourage you, because eventually you will find like-minded people who are going to say, hey, I really like what you're saying there, and they'll start to comment. But it does take time, but don't let it discourage you if you don't see a reaction in the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if we cover this, but it's I'm considering a career change or using my skills to launch my own business. Any suggestions on how to get started?
Mm-mm. It all starts with your mindset. 100%, right? Like if you're coming from a corporate setting, I'm only going to speak from my experience. If you're coming from a corporate setting and then you're going to be a solopreneur or a business owner, it starts here first, right? Because it was very it was a transition in my mind of when I was in a corporate setting, I had to get approvals, from your leadership team. You were held accountable for certain things. But when you're off on your own, you are accountable for yourself. You have to dig deep, and you need to be able to have the courage to step out. No one's standing behind you. It's really you. So it really starts with your mindset. Get prepared with what does it mean to be a business owner for yourself? Be confident that you make the shots and the calls. And if you make a mistake, that's totally fine too. But you're going to have to um, be okay with relying on yourself in the beginning. Um, the next part I would suggest is then once you feel like, okay, I have this, I want to do this, the purpose of me changing is greater than not doing it at all. Once you have come to terms with that, I would say find a mentor or look for a business coach to help guide you, because you will need someone to hold you accountable to see things from a different perspective. I think that's going to be really important, to surround yourself with people that are going to um, help you along the way.
Hmm. Great. I want to go to, gosh, so many good questions. Um, yeah, so I guess just still continuing on the social media kind of path. How do you make the
Yeah.
LinkedIn page attractive to and
Oh,
show that you are changing your career so that
ooh, yeah.
you're when you're taking a pivot? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I would say for me, it took me a while actually to change my LinkedIn profile. I was I was scared. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't really sure when I was ready to let go of my um, professional corporate life. But um, once I started to start writing things down and journaling, it started to come up for me, right? Like I needed to have the brain dump to take things out and say, okay, what am I going to share with people? How am I clearly and articulately going to share this? So I think you should definitely still put your background in your bio, but then also share with them where you're heading towards. It doesn't mean that you're standing there 100% yet. That's okay. But share with that you're in the process of doing it. Maybe you're learning programming and you're in the middle of a boot camp. Maybe you're taking lessons, or share the process with your on your profile, and that's okay because those that also will help words in your bio, some of your old professional, previous background, but then also what you're heading towards. And it's okay to share that you're in the process of learning it, because that will maybe spark people to ask you a question about it. Hey, how's it going? Or how can I help?
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're sort of taking some threads of what you've done before and then tying it to your future. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's really important to not discount where you've come from, because there are going to have those past experiences and skill sets that are going to be transferable. Because listen, if your strengths will always follow you wherever, it doesn't matter what the company or the industry that you were in, that is always going to shine forward. So you should leverage that and move that forward. It's just changing maybe the terminology or the language, right? So for me, originally I was in merchandise management, right? And then I was slowly I was thinking about going into project management. That's completely transferable. We didn't call that in the fashion industry project management, but launching a collection, that's project management. We just called it something different. So it's really finding the terminology and the words to describe what you used to do
Mhm.
in a new way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to get to the point of, on social media, there can be, how do you set yourself up for success and not let fear bring you down of people who may be haters or, just um, like how do you choose to present yourself in a way so that it's authentic and genuine and it's you, but also just still open up. Yeah, so keep opening up about yourself and not worry about
Mm-hmm.
what others have to say or judge you on.
I've never actually have experienced that on LinkedIn. Um, it's always been very professional. And I think we think before we even post it that it's going to happen. But the reality of it is, and I can't say that there's never been trolls online. That's not realistic. I totally understand that. But for the most part and most of the time, it really is you stopping yourself. It's the people who are haters out there, maybe just one or two people. And I don't even know if they'll even say anything. And if they do, you can still shut them down and take out their comment, right? But what you'll find is you'll find more people being supportive and wanting to learn and share more about you. Because if you're putting yourself out there, chances are a lot of people aren't. So you just taking the stand and showing up, that's already a really big um, win right there, because a lot of people don't. So if you do do have that, you'll find yourself with more support and love coming back to you than you will with like the trolls and the haters.
Great, I love it. Yeah, I feel like you're telling me, just come into it with an intention and positive energy of
Mhm.
what you want to receive, and which is to sort of kind of ask for help and share the things that you don't know, and then let people know about it,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like, help me, let's talk about this together and work on it.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point. I think one of the great ways before you pivot is asking for an informational interview. I don't think people ask for it enough. It's very underutilized or shared with because I don't, I think it's magical. When I was going through my transition, I asked for four different types of informational interviews because I was exploring on what I wanted to do next. So basically, informational interview is reaching into your network and sharing with them, hey, there was a point where I wanted to look into being a fashion recruiter. So I reached out to a couple of people that I knew. I'm like, hey, I just want to learn more about your daily um, what you do on a daily basis. Were you certified? How did you get to where you're at? And people are, you'll be surprised, but they'll love to share their journey and story with you. And that's very valuable information because when I went through the informational interview, I later found out, like, I don't know if that's really right for me. Or, yeah, I actually, let me look into it and some more. It just really gives you an insight and perspective from a firsthand from someone who's actually doing the job without having the pressure of the actual job interview. So that's a really great way to first get to understand and learn before you make that transition or pivot.
Excellent. And for someone who has been laid off from a solid career and having difficulty landing a new job, how do you handle this rejection, feeling of being rejected? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's, being laid off, comes with so much emotions. Um, First of all, you don't have a say in it. You feel like, why did they pick me beyond other people? You feel like life is happening to you, but really life is happening for you. I think, and it's hard to be in that moment of thinking that, right? But how you handle rejection is you have to see it as an opportunity to try something new. Yes, it didn't work out, and you are no longer with the company, but it could be an awesome opportunity to find something new. Maybe that's what you needed to start. I mean, I know that for me, I would have never left my last job if I wasn't um, laid off. I I liked being in a corporate setting. It's safe. I can just do my work with my head down. But being in a comfort zone, it doesn't really get you very far. And obviously, the job security is false because where I thought I was safe in my corporate job, it ended up not being, it's not guaranteed. But actually, banking on yourself and building your personal brand online can actually put you in the driver's seat, designing how you want to put yourself out there professionally to welcome new opportunities. So I don't take failure or rejection anymore as a negative. I think of it as data collection, right? So like failure is not failing for me. It's okay, that didn't work out. What did I learn from it and then move forward and how am I going to act differently next time?
Definitely just comes to mind, failing forward. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's resilience is what I learned from 2020. Um, I think we all grew a little layer of, maybe not even a little layer, but a very thick layer of resilience. And so I, for me, I didn't want to just sit with the resilience. I wanted to do something different. So that's why I really started putting myself out there more and more. If I want different results than 2020, I have to do something different in 2021.
Mhm. I love it. I think we all just need a little push and someone who can tell us, yes, you can, and just go for it and see what happens. and then if it didn't work, then let's talk about it and help each other
Yes.
know that, oh yeah, it's that we're not alone, that it's happened to many of us. So yeah.
Sharing your stories is that's what people are, open to hear and listen. I think, living through 2020, we're all stuck at home, right? So where we can only get connection sometimes is through a platform like LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Instagram. And so sharing a little bit and revealing a little bit about yourself consistently every day, people will start to get interested and want to get to know you more. As long as you're authentic about it and then I think people can see through that and will gravitate towards that.
Awesome. Just looking through some more of the questions. I know,
Yeah.
you've told me about how you went through, many rounds of interviews, but it didn't quite work out. So we have some questions around lack of experience, whether it be someone who maybe just finished their university education or just,
Yeah.
yeah, like less than 10 years of experience when they're applying to a role, like a job posting, and or
Hmm.
yeah, so maybe you can go over some of the mindset around that, or how you came out of
Yeah.
the interviews. Yeah.
Yeah. So some action items that I did after I didn't make the fifth round to this role that was a slight stretch for me, right? I came from the fashion industry, but I was trying to go into the role of brand strategist for a furniture company. And I didn't make it to the last round. After 5 rounds, I didn't make it to the sixth round. So what I ended up doing is I reached out to the hiring manager, and I think a lot of people tend to let the rejection sit with them and just walk away. And for me, that didn't sit well with me because it would the interview was going so well. I needed to understand where were the gaps that I was missing. And so when I reached out to the hiring manager, she was very lovely and very gracious to share what I was missing. I was missing some computer programming, or not programming, but some computer knowledge of a particular program. So I ended up, learning a little bit more about that and having an informational interview with another brand strategist so that I can connect the dots. I think that we should ask where were we missing so that we have the opportunity and control to either add that back in or decide maybe that rejection was a good thing because maybe that wasn't the right position for me too. So you can definitely take a look at it in both ways. Either you're going to take the rejection and use that as fuel to find out what you were missing and then try again, learn about it and try again, or you can take it as a learning and say, well, maybe that just wasn't the right thing for me and I need to keep finding what is right for me and go back to the strengths personality, what lights you up, and what you go back to your inventory of your strengths and figure out, okay, if that position wasn't for me, maybe there's something else in the industry that I'm better suited for.
Mhm. I have this thought where maybe you make a mistake and you kind of get the door shut in your face, or it's just not the right path. Do you feel like your confidence grows when that happens, but then you just, move on to the next thing, and then maybe you become more bold for reaching for the next opportunity?
Yes, especially if you gather the information. I know sometimes you won't ever get the information, right? Like a hiring manager will not always give you the gaps. You won't have that because sometimes you're ghosted from recruiters or from you never hear back from an application that you put in. But just know this, like as you're job searching, the reality of it is that you have to submit many applications in order to get that one yes, because you only need one, right? So just in general, it's going to happen. But just keep in mind and stay grounded. Remind yourself what your value is and what your strengths are, and lean into that for sure. But I could understand, and I know I've been there before, that it does take a lot of no's to get to your yes, especially during this time. But it doesn't mean anything about you. It just wasn't the right fit.
Mhm. Yeah, and then for someone who kind of looks at the job posting and it looks really, like this magical unicorn that is supposed to, that they want to hire, how do you just go for it and just apply anyways and see what happens? Um, to try it
Well,
out.
I am a I love digging in to LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the perfect platform to find out how you're connected with that company, with someone in the company. It could be two or three people down the line, but it I think it's well worth it to reach out to people and to find within your network, is there a way that for you to get back into in front of that hiring manager or someone within that company? Networking is, you know what they say, your net worth is your network. I hope I'm saying that right. But basically, it's who you know is really how you'll get in front of the right person, and not just your application through the ATS system, right? I think it's a warm referral is so much better than just putting your application into the system. And I know that for some people, maybe straight out of college or pivoting into a career, that may not be in front of them yet. But I go back to the personal branding. If you don't make your space of authority of like knowing your subject matter and your industry, whether you are just starting off or pivoting towards, you have to share that and then be involved in the conversations of your new industry that you're entering into. Because put yourself in front of maybe the thought leaders, you'll find like-minded people starting to get to know you too. But it really is putting yourself out there, especially when you don't have that network yet. But the only way that you can build it up is making those connections and getting involved in those conversations online.
Mhm. Do you think it's helpful to, when you make a connection, maybe perhaps you could ask them if there's any way that you can help them because maybe you are wanting to learn from them and like you look up to them as a role model? Would that be
Yeah.
a healthy approach?
I think, like I was sharing before, like start off with an informational interview first. I think people have, when you would be respectful for people's time. So just start off with something where they can't say no to you in terms of, hey, just a 20-minute coffee meetup. I just want to learn more about you. Really make it about them and how, because people love to share their story. I would start off there first. And then once you feel like you've maybe made a connection, ask them as a follow-up, hey, is there anyone else that you can introduce me to? I think you have to be very careful on how you what more you're going to ask for. You definitely have to check out what the vibe is, and if it's mutual, and then it's okay to always ask, is there anyone else that you can introduce me to? I think that is a great way of getting closer and closer to building your network and getting warmer to the industry that you want to be a part of.
Mhm. Cool. And when maybe at some season in your life you feel like you have many passions that you want to pursue, and um,
Mm-hmm.
so how do you devote time for each and then maybe figure out which one to move forward with? So it's more like, how do you plan out your week maybe so that you can or like find some kind of focus so that you can pursue certain passions and figure out what the plan is to move forward or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to just like self-care, right? Like I think finding your passion is a little bit about like self-care because when you find your passion, your purpose, that's actually probably steering you closer away from burnout. Finding your passion a part of your self-care routine, making time for that, whether it is when you're going on your walk around the neighborhood, popping in a podcast that you can learn a little bit more about your passion. I think there are a lot of great little ways that you can integrate um, and explore some more. Um, if you're online, if you are on LinkedIn or any other platform, start following with like-minded people that are already in that passion area, whether it's yoga, wellness, mental wellness, or volunteering. Start following them and start finding out what they're into and just get really involved in that world. I think those are really easy, actionable steps that you do because we're always on our phones, right? Like, um, we can always find moments and times getting on Instagram, but if you're going to go on Instagram, be intentional about it and maybe make your screen time more about finding your passion and learning a bit more about it.
Great. Yeah, so I think maybe there are a few guests that just joined later. Can we go back to the personal brand statement? And if you can help us kind of break it down a bit so that maybe we can do this as homework after the call or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. So first off, you have to, I think the best way to start is to sit down and to start to journal and think about what are your strengths, what are your core values, what you stand for, what makes you quirky, what is your personality, what do people ask you for, or what do people comment to you on, and really jot that down. And to build a personal brand statement, give yourself some grace because it could evolve. It doesn't have to be permanent. So that's one thing I would like to put out there because it could feel a little heavy. It could feel like I'm not a company. What do I stand for? And that already is going to stop you from doing it. Just write down simply, um, write down your strengths, who you love to help, and what you're known for. Your strengths, who you love to help, and what you're known for. Start off with those three phrases or sentences and see what you come up with. And see and read it back to yourself and say, yeah, that is me, or no, I'm going to take this out and play around with it. Totally, this is yours, right? And this is going to evolve over time, but make sure that it feels right to you and authentic to you. But your personal brand is basically your reputation online of who you are, who you help, and what people go to you for.
Typing it out for everyone.
Okay.
Okay, great. And yeah, so I want to say that I I feel like for role models, how do you find those people? Like, do you kind of like have like a saved bookmarked list of people that you go to often to look at their inspirations um, and do you actually reach out to them and talk to them and connect with them so they can ask, how just build a connection and then learn from them and get ideas from them for yourself.
Yeah. Um, I think I'm going to go back to what has opened up for us in 2020. I feel like because people have been sheltering in place and now I think even who you think is like up here they won't return your DMs or get back to you, you'll be surprised. I think for a lot of people who used to be on a public stage are used to seeing people all the time, but now they only have what's in front of them is their phone and all through their just direct messages. So it's been pretty interesting for me. I've actually have reached out to influencers that I've seen online, and I don't and how I approach it is I I really mean it in a way of if they made a message that really resonated with me, I share that with them. And I don't expect them to respond back, but because the message was probably so it was heartfelt and authentic, they do reach back to you. So I think we put a lot of people on this pedestal, but they are just humans looking for connection. And really, the only way that you can do it is through online and direct messaging them in a way where you just let them know what they said or what they did. It really resonated and landed with you. And I'm starting to get those, and I will respond back too. I love those because when you put yourself out there, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability. And sometimes you're like, did anyone hear that? I don't even know. But getting that support back, I mean, people will reply back. You pretty surprising on who I've been able to contact and to have conversations through in messages.
Yeah, great idea. I think maybe I feel like that's also a way that of how we may have connected is just by me reaching out to you or you reaching out to me and just saying, "Hey, I like what you did, and that was
Yeah,
cool. And I just
on
want to
Clubhouse.
learn from you or
Yeah.
support whatever you have going on moving forward." Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We're all pretty vulnerable out there when you're putting yourself online or in Clubhouse speaking. And so when you get that little bit of encouragement or support back, pretty sure that that person will actually at least say thank you back. At least you know you've made a connection. So don't be afraid to share your thoughts with someone.
Mhm. Um, do you, with your now that you have your personal brand statement, do you kind of have it posted up somewhere in your office or like by your bed and just like maybe look at it often, sort of like almost like an affirmation to yourself of who you are and what you do, why you get up in the morning, and all of that?
I have it in my journal. So whenever I feel like I'm feeling a little lost or not feeling super authentic with what I'm going to post, I always do look back at it and say, "Who am I? I'm Valerie. I love meeting new people, and I fully support mid-career women who are navigating a job loss, and I do it by creating this blog that creates succinct and clear information for them to thrive and to learn. So definitely keep it with you because you're going to need to lean into it sometimes to remember, what you want to write about or what you want to stand for. Um, yeah, that's always good to have nearby.
That's so cool. It led me to think about just I often hear from people telling me I would introduce myself and say, "Oh, okay, I'm a chemist or I'm a graphic designer," and but then maybe the conversation just kind of stops there. But it just makes so much more
Okay.
sense to express why you do that work. Like, who is it for?
Hmm.
And where's your superpower within all of that? And then you do that within your role and who are you helping? So that's so cool.
Hmm. I want to also say that a lot of people, as human beings, we love a good story. And so that is a way of finding connection with someone, is sharing with people, the audience, why did you go into chemistry? Why do you love graphic design? That's another way of building your personal brand is sharing your why, because that's unique to you.
Great. So we have about 7 minutes left, and if anyone has any more questions, please submit them now in the Q&A. And, what we're moving towards the like a takeaway of the session today. And I suppose you can also talk to us about, like sort of turning pain into power, or like turning the rejection into motivation. How do you do that? I know it's
Mhm.
a big question, but maybe you can give us an insight. Yeah.
Oh gosh. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, like it was a process for me, right? Um, and it took a couple of months to not feel bad about myself or let my life circumstances um, be. I had a lot to change for. I um, I have my daughter who's looking up at me as a role model, so I wanted to make sure that I could show her what resilience looked like and act like, right? Because I want her to be stand strong and confident in who she is going forward and not letting rejection take you down as a person, but to take you in a whole new direction, but even better. So I had that going for me. I knew I had to do this for my daughter. Um, I would say also, do it for yourself. Don't let the rejection, don't wear it like a bad coat. It's not you. You have so much to give. I think everyone has a purpose and a light within themselves that the world wants to know and learn about. You'll be surprised once you start sharing it how welcoming people can be. And they'll celebrate you like, oh, I've been waiting for you to share that with me. I've never heard that story before, but if you keep it inside, you're robbing people of your light and your purpose.
Mm, it's beautiful. And it's like, yeah, wanting to do more. And then of course I love hearing that, your kids, they are a big part of your motivation for keeping keep moving forward and keep going, and just, today, like tomorrow's a new day, like the next hour is a new hour to do something new,
Mhm.
and be bold, and take the next
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah, what I learned in 2020 is that, we're never guaranteed the next hour. Something could dramatically change again and we could go back into where we were before, but you know, take advantage of what is in front of you and use that as an opportunity to launch and try something new. Stick with your curiosity and follow that. Um, there's just so much accessibility that we have in front of us, our phones, technology. Um, and I think that we are in an actually very um, great time where we could do it all in our home on our couch, right? So take advantage of this time that you've had to reflect and do something about it. And it doesn't have to be gangbusters out of the gate, but really, start today. Something that's struck your curiosity about learning something new about yourself or taking that strengths personality test. Try it out. Learn something about yourself because I guarantee you, um, people want to see you move boldly in this world. It's not just for the influencers or the celebrities. Everyday people. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about the other person, but you have to you but in order to see different results in your personal branding, you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and we have, well, this will be the last question, from Jamie, is how do you handle when you articulate your why to people, companies, and they feel like you are doing too many things, have too many areas of interest and passions. So yeah, how do you like focus in and make sure you're communicating um, to people that you're face to face with what they want to
Hmm.
hear and what yeah, how do you stay focused?
I guess my question, and I know I can't ask the question to Jamie, but thank you for asking that question. I sometimes think that it's all in our head where we overthink things because we are so passionate about so many different things. And then you're thinking, well, I can't share that with them because like they'll think I'm crazy. I have this, right? But it may have just started in your head, right? But if you wanted to try to simplify it, if it's all a lot of different things, there are probably some core values sitting inside of those different passions, right? It could be, is it all creative related? Is it all about connection with people? There probably is that common value, that through line through all of your passions that really lights you up inside. So find out those one or two and just share that and say, hey, I love connecting with people and I love hearing their stories. They don't have to know that I love going on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, and I love, shooting videos. Like they don't need to know the details, but the reason of your core of your why is getting down to what lights you up inside. And it's probably one or two words.
Mhm. This is really awesome and beautiful, and I think I'm gonna wrap up there. Anything else you would like to leave us with before we go?
Um, Well, I just want to say thank you, Katie, for creating this platform, for having this discussion. Um, I just want to point out, us being two Asian women talking about personal branding with all of this amazing audience globally. I think that says a lot. Currently, right now in the States, we're going through um, a, a lot of hate crimes and verbal assaults to our community. But I think just standing in this moment, just you and I having this, I think that is like the best way to 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 overcome that type of ignorance and hate. So I just want to point that out, that um, it's possible, that it may feel like, how do you battle like the ignorance and hate that can happen to your community? Well, it's standing proud and sharing your voice. And I just wanted to say we're doing that today. And I'm just like so proud and so grateful that we can do that. And just thank you to everyone who's been listening. Hope that you can, see me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you there. Don't be afraid to message us, message me. And just thank you so much for this time.
Yeah, I would love to thank everyone for joining us. You know, you could be anywhere else, but you chose to be here. So we're really grateful for you to
Yeah.
provide the vibes for us and make us feel like, that we have an audience and people are interested in learning and wanting to grow. And that's why we do this. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Valerie, for working with me on this.
Thank you, Katie.
It's been so wonderful to collaborate and get to know you better. And I'm sure we will have many more conversations. And we will always welcome you to come back and join us again, and with a different topic or anything, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Message us and then let's see what people are having questions about. I'm sure we can find a really great subject to share on Power to
great.
Fly.
And yeah, so goodbye to everyone and have a beautiful day. Bye.
Bye everyone.